Hello and welcome to this very special edition of the Angry Microwave. I'm Brad. With me, as always, is Callum. Callum, WandaVision's finished. What are we going to do every week?
Holy fuck. First of all, spoiler warning, we're going to spoil the shit out of this season. But
Yes, we are.
so
Um, so, I think we will address the elephant in the room without addressing the elephant in the room straight away. So, a lot of people, I think, watching this are going to be talking more about, oh, sorry, the people that are going to be talking about this now are going to be talking more about what didn't happen compared to what actually happened. We'll talk about what didn't happen and our expectations and things like that in a second.
okay.
But just quickly, you got 30 seconds, I guess. Just tell me what you thought of this season.
I absolutely loved it. I'm really worried now that with the upcoming Disney Plus series that none of them are going to have the kind of oomph that this did. Like
Yeah.
it made me fall in love with a weekly release again. I think it's been the first series in ages where I've absolutely loved the discussion each week with you, like watching stuff online. I've absolutely loved the discussion around it, and waiting it has been brilliant. Like it's built up that pace, which we don't see that often. The thing that I compare it the most to is when Stranger Things season 3 dropped. Nobody talked about it because everyone just watched it over a weekend, and there was not that conversation. This has allowed that conversation to happen. And when Disney originally came out and they were like, we're not going to release it all at once, everyone was a bit like, what are you doing, guys? Now I think everyone's on board with these weekly releases.
Yeah. And it did suffer a little bit at the beginning because a lot of people would watch, obviously they released the first 2 episodes and it started getting essentially review bombed simply because not all the episodes were out. I don't think I would have had as I wouldn't have been as connected to this series if it wasn't weekly, because for the last 8 weeks, I have been counting down, looking online, having discussions, what's going to happen, bloody, bloody, blah. Now, did that come back to bite the show in the arse with all these fan theories? They've essentially allowed us 2 months to put together all these fan theories, and maybe they could never quite live up to what we thought could possibly happen. But we'll talk about that in a second. So I completely agree. I actually think it's the right format for it. I think it was the story definitely should have been told in this format. I think the fact that we spent so long in this little pocket within this universe that we already know and love, some of the twists and turns along the way, some of the cute little nods, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Now, watching the trailers. Now I understand why, but watching the trailers months ago, and we've been getting trailers for this for a little while because I believe this got pushed back, right?
Yeah.
Nobody really knew what was gonna unfold. A lot of people thought this was going to be in her mind, that this is her grieving, and that's essentially what the show was. But with the format, with the sitcom format, nobody really knew what to expect, and that completely worked in its favor. The fact that we started with 50s and 60s sitcom all the way through to your Modern Family-esque episodes, and then obviously the last couple of episodes, just the big budget, which we all love. I loved. I think Elizabeth Olsen is absolutely phenomenal. It's a character that I didn't particularly care about from Age of Ultron. I didn't really care about their introduction.
Well, yeah,
but I'm actually.
She wasn't given the time to develop in Age of Ultron at all.
No, which is crazy considering she's meant to be the center of that film, really.
Like having this format just allows so much more character development, and obviously with this leading into Doctor Strange Universe of the Madness, I think is what it's called, or
Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness. I was close. It is a perfect prelude to it, and I think the most important thing about this whole Disney Plus Marvel era of shows is I think everyone was going to be, is this just going to be a movie stretched out to be a series? And so far, like, this could not have been a movie. It wouldn't have worked in a movie form at all.
No.
And that makes me really excited about what's to come. The thing that does worry me though is originally Captain and the Winter Soldier was meant to come first, right? And then this.
I believe so.
In the order. I feel like we know what I feel like we know what that series is going to be, and that makes me a bit worried.
Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be straightforward, kind of like action, kind of stuff. And after this, I don't know how that's particularly going to land with people. Do you know what I mean? It makes me worried that's going to kind of fall flat after this amazing run that we've had with WandaVision.
But after this, I actually feel the opposite. I haven't been blown away by the trailers. It looks like a standard run-of-the-mill, action series. But I didn't really have high expectations for this. I thought it looked different.
Yeah.
But I didn't have high expectations for this. And that actually made me end up loving the show even more. So I like the fact that I'm not really expecting to be in love with Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
100%. Also, I've just thought of something. So movie trailers are made to sell us to go and buy the tickets for the films. These Disney Plus shows don't need you to buy into it, do they? So these trailers don't have to spoil everything. And I think it's been the first time in ages where the trailers have not spoiled the entire plot of the series. Yep. And even with the Winter Soldier, I don't know what the plot is at all for the Winter Soldier, really, because they don't need to sell tickets for the series, do they? I feel like they sell enough on word of mouth more than anything else. Which makes it really exciting that we're not going to get these series spoiled. Because with films every day, we get trailers literally. If you look at the Bond fiasco, the Bond film, you can probably recreate the whole film at the moment with all the footage that's been out.
But the thing is as well, they've got so many subscribers. They've got more subscribers now than what they thought they'd have in a couple of years' time, Disney Plus, right?
Yeah, so we don't even need any.
You're right. The audience is already there. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're not here to talk about Disney Plus numbers. We're here to talk about a very spoiler-filled discussion about WandaVision. Now, final episode, everything was leading up to this. Everyone kind of thought that this would be like a big budget battle episode after the exposition dump last week, which is essentially, I guess, what this is. Now, I personally love the fact that nobody turned up to save the day. There was no cameo. There was no Doctor Strange turning up, because just from a writing standpoint, this was her show. This was her. I mean, she literally says it in the show. I don't need you to tell me who I am. It's about her coming to terms with who and what she is. She had to be the one to fight the villain, to save the day. And because it's Scarlet Witch, have a very emotional loss at the end of it, because this poor woman, everything that she's in, every time she turns up, someone either dies or she experiences great pain, and I just feel really sorry for her. I want to give her a great big hug. Now, one thing I think that this finale had going against it wasn't necessarily the fan projections, because it's not the writer's fault that we have had 8 weeks to actually create these fan theories. That's not the writer's fault at all. What Marvel have done incorrectly, and I'm even going to point to Kevin Feige here, is by using terminology like leading straight into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because that, to us as an audience, makes us believe something big is going to happen that's going to lead us into that movie, right?
It's the cast's fault. They've been doing interviews over the past 3 weeks saying about this Luke Skywalker level cameo. Like, I think we need to discuss this now, because both Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, they've both given everyone the idea in their head that there's going to be this cameo, which there wasn't. It was ultimately Paul Bettany talking about himself, which is a 200 IQ play, by the way. I do appreciate what he did there, but it just feels like they've hyped it up for people to be disappointed. Like, I don't really get why they did all this press saying there was going to be this next level cameo, and then there to be nothing. Because,
the thing is, with the whole Luke Skywalker level cameo, she never said that. She was asked, will there be a Luke Skywalker level cameo? And obviously she's promoting this. She can't say no, there's not. So she said, yeah, we've got some big things coming, right? Which is, I guess, all she can say. Paul Bettany, on the other hand, saying that there's an actor I've always wanted to work with all my life.
I do appreciate the hustle of that quote. That quote was so perfectly worded that it's so clever that I'm not really angry at it. I'm just more angry that people are going to be disappointed overall by it.
Yeah.
Because I saw the Twitter newsfeed thing this morning, and it said mixed reactions. I haven't looked. Are there people that are disappointed with this finale? Because
what people are disappointed about, what I've seen, isn't the lack of a cameo. I think people actually appreciate that he kind of teased work with someone he's always wanted to work with, and that's himself. I don't think people are angry. Like, people aren't angry with, I think, how the show closed out, because that battle between Agnes Agatha, Catherine Hahn, whatever you want to call her, and the Scarlet Witch. I really enjoyed that, especially for TV level. I mean, we're certainly in a new era now with what they can do on TV. I really enjoyed that whole, the crux of the episode, which was basically the fight between the Scarlet Witch and Catherine Hahn's character. Nobody really complained about that. What people are complaining about is that Quicksilver was nobody.
I think that's fine though. Did people expect him to actually be from the Fox universe? That would have been like a.
I think the fact is, it wasn't. He was in it for too long for it just to be a cute little nod, and he was in it for too long for us not to speculate about what it could possibly mean. Yeah, the fact that you've actually got an actor who has played a character of the same name.
Oh, see, I'm not angry about this. I didn't even know that was the thing people were angry about. I was like, oh. That's all right. What it does do, though, is basically put a full stop that there's not going to be a Fox crossover now. Because there's no way they could explain him coming back into that universe. There's no way he can come back in.
But the reason people are angry is because, like Kevin Feige has said, this leads directly into a film called The Multiverse of Madness. Here's a guy that's played Quicksilver. He's got Quicksilver powers. You've used phrases like, oh, she's recast her brother. But I still think there is a possibility that he is the Quicksilver that we know, because we never heard him say his name, right? The fact that there's a bit of paper that says his name, and he was controlled by Agatha the entire time until his final 2 seconds, where Rambo pulled off the necklace that was controlling him, right? And then he said, "Please don't kill me." That was it. There's no reason why he couldn't actually be the Quicksilver that we know. There's no reason why he couldn't be, because we haven't seen enough for it not to be true.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of multiverses they talk about then, because obviously we've got the Spider-Man multiverse, which is basically confirmed, right, that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are going to be in it, probably, like 95% sure.
Because Tom Holland's come out and said that, he's read all that, but they're not actually in it. The fact that he's come out and said they're not in it, I believe even more so now they're in it.
But I'm quite interested to see that if they're killing off the Fox universe, if that is what it is, and if we take it at its word, what other multiverses they can dip into? Because I don't really know what other multiverses people will be interested in. The
only thing for me, I think they're making a Fantastic Four movie, right? They own X-Men. What I do agree with you that I think this maybe puts a pin. Despite what I just said, I do think that it puts a pin in the fact that we're not going to have the Fox X-Men universe crossover. What it does do is, quite literally, opens a portal into all these different characters that we can now explore. So a multiverse could be, there's a universe with mutants. It doesn't have to be an actual cinematic universe that we've seen before. It's just literally, this is a version of Earth that has mutants. This is a version of Earth that has the Fantastic Four. That could literally be what it means. I think sometimes as fandoms, we can maybe look too much into what we already know and not think of, well, what are the writers going to do from a writing standpoint? We're all expecting Hugh Jackman to rock up, That's not going to happen.
I mean, that Loki series, to be fair, every character they've killed off now, it seemed quite spare at the moment, but it's really nice that we're getting these retrospective things now. So obviously we had Vision in this series. We've got a Black Widow solo film, which is set in the past coming up. We've got the Loki series. It's quite nice that they're kind of getting their time to either say goodbye for the last time or just go on one more journey with those characters. I absolutely love that we're getting a chance to do this with Loki, Vision, and now Black Widow. I think that's really smart of them. That it's now not about going forward. I do think that obviously Infinity War and Endgame was the massive kind of ending event, and I don't really know how they're going to go forward from here. But having this little time period of probably a year or two now of just kind of looking back and having these different adventures, I've really appreciated. I feel like they needed this, to have this cool down period for everyone to kind of reset now, and I think it's perfectly doing that job. I think everyone's enjoying everything that they're putting out at the moment, for sure.
That's why I actually enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp as much as I did, because that came out between Endgame and Infinity War and Endgame, and you kind of needed that bit of a breather, that bit of a reprieve. And if they took 10 years to build up from Iron Man, the Hulk, Captain America, all the way up to the big boss battle at the end of Endgame. They've got 10 years. People are going to be coming back. If I'd love to know the numbers. I know this was the most watched show. This is more watched in Bridgerton in January and February, right? So the audience is clearly still there. There clearly is still a big appetite. And the pandemic probably helped them because people are missing the cinemas so much.
Yeah.
They'll be like, give me more Marvel. Give me more Marvel.
I mean, it's kind of been mad, but it's given me something to look forward to throughout this whole pandemic situation. There is literally nothing we can do in the UK at the moment. We're in full lockdown. Restaurants are closed. Cinemas still closed. Like retail still closed. There's nothing for us to do. And I do think having this weekly release has kind of given everybody that little thing to look forward to.
100%.
And we're still going to have that as well. It's kind of great, like the timing of this, because we've got the making of coming next Friday. And then after that, we're straight into the Winter Soldier, right? There's no breaks. Mm-hmm. So it's really nice that we're getting this weekly thing to go and look towards. And it's certainly making my week go a lot quicker, knowing I've got this coming up to watch on a Friday morning.
Yeah, because sometimes there's nothing worse than, when your football team isn't playing on the weekend, what you're looking forward to. It turns out WandaVision is what you're looking forward to. Now, I do have a question for you. Well, this conversation's been a bit scattered because we've really been dying to make a video on WandaVision every week, but we've been saving it for an end of season discussion. Do you think there is going to be a season 2?
No.
Now, I would have said up until the very last 10 seconds of the second post-credit scene, because there are 2 post-credit scenes, and that's what people on some of the complaints I don't really listen to on Twitter because they clearly didn't watch the last post-credit scene, because she's obviously there making a cup of tea and then her force projection. There you go, a little Star Wars crossover for you. She's doing all the Scarlet Witchy stuff. She's floating up in the air. She's reading her book. She's reading about spells, and then she hears her kids calling for help. Maybe that could be what leads into the multiverse of madness, or is that what leads into a series 2? Because really, the villain never went away. She kept the villain alive, which is a massive dun dun dun. To be continued. She's clearly going to come back, and I love Catherine Hahn. I'd love to see more of those two go at it.
Well, yeah, they definitely left that open, didn't they? At the end, when they said, "I know where to find you," that was definitely like we're just going to save this character and leave them hibernating until we need it. I thought that was quite a smart thing. And sorry to interrupt, but like one of the things I absolutely loved about this whole series is how it brought together so many universes within the Marvel universe. We obviously had Jimmy Woo, who definitely needs his own X-Files like spin-off program in the MCU. I think that's one of the biggest things to come out of this. Kat Dennings from Thor, it just kind of like linked in. And then you got the Monica character from like the Captain Marvel. It's such a perfect kind of like bringing everything together without having a like Endgame or kind of Infinity War massive crisis that they have to solve. It was it was a nice small scale, and everything just seemed to make sense. It never was we need to insert this character here for everyone to be happy. It felt really natural. Throughout the whole thing, in my opinion, I thought there was a great use of the characters that they have available.
For sure. And, there were characters that, like you said, like have popped up before, or younger version of them have popped up before. Everything had its purpose. Everything had its place. Every character was there for a specific reason. John Krasinski didn't show up. We'll talk about that in a second. But can we talk about that now? We'll talk about that now.
About why did they tease an engineer that never got paid off? Why?
That's the one thing that I thought was a complete, not just a misdirect, but almost a bit of a troll at that point, because you were also building up to that for 2 weeks, right? For 2 episodes, they were teasing, I've got a guy, I've got an engineer.
I don't get it. I really don't get why they would tease it like that and not pay it off, because it definitely felt like they were teasing it, right? Even when the engineer didn't turn up, it was one of the army people.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they would tease that, and I don't understand where they're going to pay that storyline off if they're ever going to finish that storyline.
Well, Monica Rambeau's now going to appear in Captain America 2, right? Or the is it Secret Invasion? Is that a TV show that's coming, or is that animation?
With Ben Mendelsohn. Oh man, I'm so excited for Ben Mendelsohn. I'm absolutely massive fan of his.
When a Skrull is pointing to the sky and being like, what they're really doing is Samuel Jackson, Nick Fury. That's essentially what's going to happen there. So she's going to go off and do that. I do think it was a complete nothing. I do think that was maybe one of the very few weak spots in a very tightly written series. Was the false tease. Like it was just completely false tease, and it was nothing. Like you say, it was nothing. But so Monica Rambeau's gonna head off to the Skrulls and Nick Fury and Captain Marvel. Yeah. Like you said, I'd love to see Kat Dennings and Jimmy Woo in the next Files type. I think they're great together. They've got great comedy. I'm a sucker for magic, so any of those gags I absolutely love. I am surprised that the government guy in this wasn't either revealed to be anything else and didn't really have a moment, because even when he went to shoot the kids, we knew one had super speed and one had, the force.
He just shot a 10-year-old kids.
He did, and I
unprovoked.
And then I just there wasn't really a payoff. And even when he got taken out, and that great line, I did laugh when Kat Dennings was like, "Have fun in prison." I did like that, but then it was kind of nothing really.
I don't mind that though, because I think everyone is kind of fed up with getting the old evil corporate white guy being the big villain, because I think we've seen that too many times in these Marvel TV shows. And I think everyone, when he first turned up, I think everyone just sighed when he started being a bit of an arsehole. Everyone was like, well, here we go, here's the big bad guy. And to subvert those expectations, I thought was kind of needed. I think we'd be moaning a lot more if he did turn out to be the big bad guy.
I just thought there'd be a bit more to it than he'd create a second vision, because, I loved the fact that there was a second vision, but even that was resolved. It was resolved pretty quickly.
We don't know that the second vision is dead, right? He just flew off, didn't he?
Yeah. The second vision was literally, he was like, all right, I'm out, and just flew away.
So does that mean he's still around, or is he?
Yeah, so he's still going to be around, because he's technically the first vision.
Yeah.
That's so. What made me laugh was that when he did the whole like touchy power thing on his forehead, and he gave him the memories, that just the glimmering in that shine effect that went that covered the first/second vision, the white one. I thought he was going to turn into Quicksilver. Not Quicksilver, Silver Surfer.
That if it turned into Quicksilver, that would just be a mad thing.
A third Quicksilver. But we haven't really spoken about Paul Bettany. I thought he was great in this series. He had a hell of a lot to do.
Normally, I absolutely hate like synth kind of robot characters. I can never normally click with them. But he did bring the humanness to this character. Yeah. Like from Age of Ultron onwards, he's really grown on me as an actor and as a character. Yeah. I don't think any other actor could have really had that kind of like coldness but also warmness at the same time. It's a really kind of weird character to play, where you have to kind of like not feel human but also have that kind of loving nature about you.
Yeah. And it's such a difficult role to put off.
I think he's absolutely smashed this series. I think everyone has. Elizabeth Olsen, Jimmy Woo, Kat Dennings. It was like, despite it being Scarlet Witch's series, it was also an ensemble piece within that as well. And even the kids, normally kid actors are really bad.
I was thinking that.
I really enjoyed the kids in this. I thought they kind of like nailed their parts, and they weren't overused, and they weren't super stage schooly. It was just perfectly kind of like balanced. Yep. And that whole fight scene, I think it's the closest we'll ever get to an Incredibles live action movie. It reminded me of that so much when they were all fighting and all had their superpowers. And part of me does kind of hope that if there is a season 2, it'll be like a kind of like multiverse thing, and basically going like, if Vision survived in this other universe, they would have had these kids anyway, and then kind of have those like kind of battles around that, because I would love to see those 4 all like fight crime or fight villains, whatever, in a whole series. It was just so perfect, and I do think that they all really worked well with each other, those 4.
I completely agree. I'd love to see more of those 4 together as like you said, as like a little Incredibles family or series,
or even a Young Avengers thing, because obviously we've got Kate Bishop coming up in the Hawkeye series. Yeah. So we could see an actual Young Avengers, which is kind of mad, because I thought they would never really be able to pull that off. But now seeing with those 2 kids in this, and then obviously Haley Steinfeld, is it? Yeah. you're kind of starting to form that kind of like young Avengers, which is quite exciting because
Yep.
it is something new that I thought we would never see.
There's so many possibilities with where this phase of Marvel can go. Now, for me, this isn't. I've gone beyond phases of Marvel. I'm now thinking in volumes, right? So, volume one of the MCU was up until Endgame, and everything after that for me is going to be volume two. That's just going to be the easiest way for my brain to process all of this. Now, what would you like to see next from, if there is a movie from this? I think more than Black Widow, more than, I think, apart from maybe Ant-Man, because I love Ant-Man. In fact, we know that's coming. Of all the unannounced Avengers potential solo films, I now would love to see a Wanda movie. I would be all over that. And I think, just going back to what we said about the villain, the witch, the fact that there's now a second Vision floating around, or one Vision floating around, and I'd love to see a movie of this.
Well, that could be Doctor Strange, Universe of Madness, or Multiverse of Madness. It could be that film, because we know that Scarlet. Well, yeah, that Wanda is going to be in this film, right? Because she's filming there at the moment. So we know that she is involved in that film. So this could be that kind of like crossover film thing. A bit like how Captain America Civil War was billed as Captain America's film, when kind of equally it was kind of Iron Man's film at the same time. So this could be a Doctor Strange cross with Wanda film, which I'd be totally down for, because I'm not the biggest fan of Doctor Strange, but now I'm really hyped to see what they do with that film, given that Wanda's going to be in it.
So I'm just so excited to see what's coming next with the MCU.
Kevin Feige's just so smart. Like, he hasn't really put, like, the only step wrong he's ever done is Thor: The Dark World. I feel like that's the only film where people were universally, this film is garbage.
You mean within the MCU, right? Because he did also produce the Fantastic Four movies.
yeah. Within the current MCU. And I mean, even the dodgy TV shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I believe he wasn't involved in that at all. And he's always said that he doesn't count the TV universe in the MCU, right? Which is a bit weird anyway. But now he does, because this is in the new MCU verse. But like the Punisher, or like all those kind of series, like even though they were great, of what I've seen of them, stuff like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I feel like probably got a bit tedious, judging from what people say. I haven't seen the full thing, but everything just seems so well planned out at the moment, and that's why we were talking about earlier how, on face value, I'm not particularly hyped about the Winter Soldier series, but knowing that Kevin Feige is behind that, I'm kind of like, benefit of doubt. Like, I would have watched it anyway, but there's just that benefit of doubt now that they've kind of earned, that we just go into it knowing that it probably will be good, and there will be something up his sleeve. Because like you said earlier, I was not hyped for WandaVision, and it probably took until we saw the blip episode that I was fully on board, and then I got really hyped every week. I think that blip episode was the biggest turning point of this series, and it made everybody kind of sit up and go, okay, here we go, it's gaining some pace. And I think from then it was basically hit after every single week.
And that's why I'm really pleased that it wasn't just a straight up sitcom spoof show, essentially, and that there was far more to it than that. It was just a really nice way to wrap this tight story in a pretty little bow. I'm excited to see what happens next. It's certainly made me more invested in the Multiverse of Madness, if I wasn't already before, which I was. I hope she keeps the outfit as well. Like, she's just so.
Have you seen the pictures of Magneto's costume versus her? They're so similar. I never realised it had that similarity about it, because it is basically Magneto's costume. It's just such a nice nod towards that.
A nod, or a wink for something to come. You know, who knows? But I love this show. If you had to rate it out of 10, what would you give the first MCU proper?
Probably a strong 9, to be fair.
Yeah,
a strong 9. I feel like if it had, I do feel like the first 3 episodes, or at least the first 2 episodes, those should have come out together, because I feel like it was kind of like, okay, this is kind of what we're going for, but I don't think I was really sold until the 3rd or 4th episode. Yeah. So maybe if that was all released as one, I would maybe give it a 10, but a very strong 9 for the first ever MCU kind of proper series. It's a very good result in my opinion.
For sure. The only reason I'd give it a 9 is because I do think there was perhaps in a few episodes room for an extra 10, 15 minutes. For sure. I think some of them just felt like, although they always ended on a bit of a teaser, like, oh, what's going to happen next week? I just feel like we could have had a bit more padding to actually just dive into a bit more. But if that's my biggest complaint, what a great TV show.
And also that engineer thing, I think, is definitely docking off half a point. That they teased this massive thing that never got resolved. It feels like it's an empty hole. But yeah, I mean, overall, it just makes me so excited about Disney Plus content. Bob Iger is the person in charge, I believe, of creative stuff at Disney at the moment, and he's absolutely smashing it. It just makes me so excited. Like, Star Wars first series was a Mandalorian, and that absolutely hit the park. And now with MCU, WandaVision absolutely smashed it. It just seems that like whatever they do is going to absolutely kill it. And I mean, in the upcoming months, we've obviously got Loki, but also the Monsters Inc. series. I'm mega excited for. I don't think anyone's talking about that, but I think that's going to be a sleeper hit. Yep. It's just all so exciting about what they're doing on there, and they can happily take their £8 a month or whatever they're doing at the moment, because it is next level content. And I do think that we're going to see this content war continue and grow with Netflix upping all their series, Paramount, if that goes off, HBO Max, all these kind of like streaming wars. Ultimately, we win as the consumer at the moment because they are spending billions upon billions to try and beat each other. And I'm just happy to kind of like be around for this absolute content wave that's happening.
It's funny that you call it a war, because a bit like the United States of America, like suddenly, Disney Plus is a thing and they're a global superpower, and it's like, we may be young around here, but come at me, bro. It's basically what they are now. I agree. It's well worth the money. It's ridiculous. I would have paid that money just for this one series alone. But then you got the first 2 series of The Mandalorian on there. Good luck to any Star Wars or MCU property that's coming to Disney Plus to try and follow those two. Because boy, what a great start!
Like I don't know. It's just it's such perfect timing for Mandalorian season 2 and season 1 in the UK, and this to come out, because there has been no new big budget content for like a year at the moment, and this definitely feels like we're still moving forward with these universes with Star Wars and Marvel, and it is keeping both of these massive series still in conversation, and people aren't forgetting about it because we are getting this new content. So it has come at the perfect time as well. It's just so perfect, this series. I really enjoyed it, and it was perfect timing, in my opinion.
I really enjoyed it. And if you disagreed with anything we've said, if you agree, if you think we forgot to mention something, because at the end of the day, there's about 6 hours worth of content that we're trying to digest into one little episode. Let us know what you think. Please don't forget to like and share and subscribe and all that stuff. We've got a great new series coming up on the Angry Microwave. I know we keep teasing it, but we are getting there. It's a show that I'm just in love with. A bit like WandaVision. Is it as good as WandaVision?
Same budget. Same budget,
definitely. But until next time, I've been Brad. That's been Callum. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.
Goodbye.